So this is just some random thoughts that were going through my head in talking with some coworkers, who are not able to work right now. Just kind of talking about everything going on. And after my conversation, my thoughts were thinking about how much of everything that's going on, how much it really boils down to fear. It really, um, well, I see it as there are, two groups of people out there right now, who probably more. I know that's a huge generalization, but um, you go to the stores and you see everything. You feel this tension and between the people that are wearing masks and the people that choose not to, and you feel this huge, like, I don't know if that's just me that feels that tension, but even if you don't feel the tension, you see it visibly. You see this divide. You see this two groups of people, right? And I feel like both groups of people are still they're acting either out of a place of respect and love and compassion and consideration, or a place of fear, either fear of jail, fear of the government for not wearing a mask, or the fear of their mortality. I've had an elderly lady, very much snap at me, because I was not within that, the complete 6 foot distance when standing in line with her, or standing behind her in line, and can just sense the fear, her fear, she has this fear of knowing that she is in a category of people that if she catches it, she is more likely to die. And I can't fault her for being afraid, because we're human. We weren't created to end. We weren't created to die. We were created to live eternally, in relationship with God. That is our very, talk about genetic makeup. That is our genetic makeup. We are created to live forever. So to not want to die, it's totally natural, and so I can't fault her for snapping at me, or anybody else, but it definitely shows me, it just makes me sad. It breaks my heart, but seeing so many people just living their lives in fear. And then, whenever I go to the store and I'm wearing a mask and gloves, I'm doing that more for everybody else's sake than mine. I am choosing not to live in fear of the coronavirus. I am choosing to act out of love. Whenever the verse where Jesus is speaking to Peter, maybe I'll have to go back and look that up. But oh no, I think that's Paul talking to the church in Jerusalem, speaking to the Gentiles and to the Jews, where there was a difference in opinion on what rules should be followed and what rules shouldn't be followed, basically, and one wanted to follow all the rules to the T, and one group thought that, you know what, like, I'm not going to live in fear, and Christ has got me covered, so I don't need to follow all these rules, right? So these two extremes. And basically Paul tells them, you know what, like, both groups need to stop focusing on what they think is right, and or what they basically saying, you guys are both just thinking about yourselves. You're both being selfish, acting out of place of selfishness, and you both need to think about the other person, which means that, you know, if somebody, you know, one group wants to follow the rule of if you want to come in my house, you need to wear gloves and a mask, you know, or an elderly couple that says, you know, like, I want to see you so we can go for a walk, but we are in the range, so you can't come in our house, but we would like to see you out in the public, you know, like, that's respecting that they have that, you know, in our day and age, that would be respecting that, you know, you have that, and that is, you know, your requirements, so I will do that. I'm not going to purposefully say, well, I don't think that you have a need to be worried about it, so I'm just going to barge into your house, or I'm just going to give you a hug even though you're asking me not to, you know, like, there's all these different ways that you can see the clash of the two ways of living. But also, you know, thinking about how much whenever we operate out of a place of fear of our mortality, you know, whenever we start living every day, you know, just making choices that are dependent on whether or not we live or die, or whether or not, you know, we do something that would cause somebody close to us to die, you know, we start living in fear of that, you know, which I think is very much true right now, where so many people are feeling that pressure from people saying that, you know what, if you don't follow all these rules, if you don't do exactly what I say you need to do, you're not protecting the ones that you love, and you're going to die, and they're going to die. You know, it's like a proverbial gun to the head saying, no other source can possibly be right. I'm the only one that has all the knowledge that the world needs, so you have to listen to me. And it's like a proverbial gun to the head. You know, you think of everybody that, all the different wars and things where you see these horrific depictions of people being led to a slaughter by gunpoint. And you just want to scream at them, and you're saying, why? Like, if there's a chance of, like, doing something else and living, why are you just walking straight to death because you're afraid of dying, because you have a gun to your head? That's insanity, you know? And so very much what's going on right now, feeling the tension of feeling like we are all put in that position every single day of, we have a gun to our head saying, if you do this, there's a possibility of it'll be your fault for somebody else to die. And that's just not right, you know? And so much like getting everybody to live their life out of this place of fear of mortality, whenever that's just a part of the circle of life, a part of, well, right now, you know, I do believe that it is a circle that never ends, and our soul will live for eternity, but not necessarily in the aspect of other people think that we'll be reincarnated. Anyways, you know, like, but part of that, like, we're all going, our bodies are all going to die one day, you know? So to completely live our life out of fear and not operate out of love because of that is a huge detriment to humanity as a whole. I mean, whenever the way that we treat other human beings decreases because we are afraid of something that somebody else told us to be afraid of, it's sad. So I don't want, there's so many experts out there besides Dr. Fauci that are putting out, other information. And the fact that it's not even being considered is a huge injustice to freedom, Yeah, it's crazy. So I think, you have to ask yourself, how far are you willing to go? What, we've all seen the movies where somebody does something crazy because they have a gun to their head, but we also see or you see those stories of people that choose not to give in to the terrorist. They have the gun to their head and they say, no, I'm willing to sacrifice because I'm not going to let this bastard win, basically. And, you have to ask yourself, how far are you willing to go? Are we willing to be okay with living out, who knows how long in isolation? And what if next they take away, what are they going to take away next? Are they going to say that we have to be split up within our houses? Once you give somebody that control, you show the person with the gun that you're willing to give to their demands. What's to stop them from demanding more from you? That's how terrorists work. And terrorism always comes from a place of either greed or, usually greed. But anyways, so I hope that things don't continue to, I hope everybody doesn't continue to just live out of fear. And I know I'm going to do my best to intentionally every day not live out of fear, but to operate out of love. And sometimes that means that I will go to the grocery store and I will wear a mask. And that's out of respect for others, so that they don't see me as not caring about them, and where they're at and their place. When I think of the analogy, or maybe it's not an analogy, but the difference between compassion and empathy. Empathy, it's I totally I can understand that you're afraid and blah blah blah, but that's not where I'm at. So you can have your feelings and I'm gonna have mine, but I can understand where you're at. And compassion is saying, wow, that's where you're at, that's how afraid you are. I'm so sorry, what can I do to help you? And I'll be there with you and walk through that, and I'll wear my mask, because you're afraid, and I'm sorry that you feel that way. But yeah, I guess that's the way that I look at it. Yeah, so I think we all just need to remember that people are more important than fear, and definitely wonder, how far are you willing to go? How much of your freedom are you willing to let go of and have taken away from you? So